Welcome to the Working Mama podcast, a show that provides real-world tips, tricks, and advice to all working mamas on how they can have a career, family, and hopefully one day break the glass ceiling. Welcome to a very special edition of the Working Mama podcast, because I not only have one, but two amazing guests on with me today. I've got Carrie and Lucy from Mums&Co. Welcome, ladies.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Pleasure is all mine. I've been very excited for this because you're both such a wealth of knowledge. So why don't we get stuck into today, and how would you both describe yourselves?
Well, my name's Lucy and I'm the community manager here at Mums&Co. So that's my job that I'm very grateful and lucky to have. And I would describe myself as a pretty ambitious working mum. I have two little boys, 5 and 8, and I'm also a solo parent. So I'm juggling all of those things myself. And I'm really passionate on a personal level to help women find work that they love and be able to do both that and be mums as well, which is obviously why I joined Mums&Co.
So good, so good. And Carrie, how would you best describe yourself?
Well, I had the privilege of working with Lucy.
Oh.
So hi, everyone. My name is Carrie Kwan. I'm the co-founder and managing director of Mums&Co. I have had quite a varied career so far. I began in corporate life, and then in 2007, I had my first step into the digital startup world. I had an insider's guide called Daily Addict. So if you love new restaurant openings and sort of beauty and lifestyle sort of news, that was me before I ventured into Mums&Co. So Mums&Co is my second startup venture as a small business owner. I'm a mum of 2. I have 2 beautiful young boys, a very wonderful husband. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter of very hardworking Chinese Malaysian parents, and I think they probably instilled a very hard work ethic in me early on. And I love coffee. I love having conversations. I'm very passionate about female founders, supporting small business owner women, and I certainly have the privilege of doing that with a very dedicated team at Mums&Co, who are all striving to make sure that we don't have to choose between our ambitions and our family.
I love it, and what you both are about, and how you describe yourselves, and it's very much the heart and soul of working mama, and also what this podcast is about is, sharing the stories and examples of being able to be a mum as well as follow your ambitions and still have a career of not having to choose one or the other. So I'm very excited for today's chat and very thankful to you both for making the time. And so we talk about being a working mum. And so what place do you think there is a value for community to support women and mums in being able to have those ambitions? And what value do you think there is of community just as a whole?
Look, there's probably if I can shape it as a hard value and a soft value. There's lots of value either way, and that sort of hard value could be encapsulated in things like, well, we're providing a sense to make an avenue to make your living. So it's employment, it's financial security, it's having choice to have that sort of stability and have the sort of contribution to the workforce. So we're contributing from an economic point of view, and it's sort of being included in that workforce. And I think that this sort of community is also very supportive of other women. So we know that a female founder is probably going to employ, 2.5 times more women in her company. A small business owner might employ an average of six women. And, that full sort of economic potential is about 25 billion to the Australian economy alone. And then
That's
if you look
huge.
Yeah, like if we actually can support women's participation in the workforce and fully unlock her potential, that's the dollar amount that we're looking at. And from a soft value, we're looking at, community is really important because we're providing this safe space for them to collaborate, to be more productive, to be open to innovation and ideas. So having that sort of emotional support that a community gives you is really, really, that's a huge value because it almost gives you the confidence to succeed.
And there's also that part in it that you know that you're not alone as well, that you just, and that bit that it comes with a big part of community. You're just like, so much of being a mum sometimes, say initially you might be feeding at 2 a.m. in the morning. You think, who else is actually doing this? And similar to actually, being a female founder, you can be isolating at times, but that there's really that value of community that can spur you on and help you believe that something more is possible.
We actually have a terminology that we use at Mums&Co called mumbition, and it sort of ties all those things together as well, because essentially what our community, or community in general, but certainly ours definitely is helping to take you from those two values into a space where you don't actually have to choose anymore between caring for your family and starting or scaling a business as well. So we see, community to be more important than ever for women in our space, so that they can feel that real nurture and be encouraged to combine those elements together.
And when you're talking about community, are there any key attributes to it? There's obviously the hard and the soft values, but particularly the soft values, is there anything that you find is really a lot more valuable than other components to it, and that you just think, look, this is really important and what you get out of having it? That because sometimes if you took that away, how do you know that it's there? It's sort of that intangible aspect of the community, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's about, I'll let Carrie talk to this because she talks about it a lot, but it's that psychological safety for us, I feel, in our community, that that element of everybody here is like-minded. We're all in the same boat, in a different, not always the same boat, but in a similar boat. And you can feel safe to ask the questions that you need to ask and to say the thing that's really bugging you or challenging you, and know that you're sort of being held in a way.
And I think where we start from is that we know that business doesn't suit business owning mums. And what we mean by that is, maybe there isn't the flexibility that's afforded, or maybe there's not the terms of reference that we feel is equitable enough. And that's because, business constructs have been made, predominantly being directed by perhaps, older white men, let's say, I'll in terms
Let's
of
put it out there. It's, Henry Ford created the 9 to 5 100 years ago.
Exactly. It hasn't kept up with things like school hours, like I think our school hours, what do we do with the children after 3 o'clock? Like, it's the networking that happens after work when we need to be putting dinner on the table and dealing with, the time that our kids really need attention and the sleep routines. So it's all these sort of, this is what we mean by business doesn't necessarily suit us. Maybe the language that's used to describe us as well. Often I hear, are we just doing a side hustle, or are we, we're just kind of dabbling in business, or are we actually really entrepreneurial and we're taking advantage of a problem that we've recognized and we're creating a venture, that will be commercially driven and makes an impact at the same time. So I think that's the framing. I think starting is that business hasn't suited us, and now we're creating this movement. We're creating this community which gets each other. We understand that you can be as professional as whilst raising, a thriving family. We just need a bit more flexibility. We need more understanding. We need more upskilling. We need more networking that suits us. So And by doing that, by redefining that to suit us, we're actually creating that sense of community where there's no judgment, that we can actually move forward and get the job done, and ask for help and I guess take control in our own terms in some ways. So that's maybe the type of special source. And we know that women engage a bit differently. We communicate differently. We've got different, amazing talent and capabilities. So I think Lucy was referring to, we create this space for them to be vulnerable, for them to actually push through and get the upskilling and the support that they need, because they will get there. They know how to do it. They just have to get through this little potentially grey phase beforehand.
Yeah, sometimes that imposter syndrome and that little monkey on the back of, can I do it? And it's what you said about the social constructs of, is it just a side hustle, or I'm just going to dabble in it? But actually, no, if you're thinking about doing it, give it a go, because you never know unless you haven't tried. And organisations such as yourselves give you that belief that, yes, you can do it. And as you said, you can't, the mumbition, that you can do it. You can have both and not have to choose. And those social constructs. So when you talk about why women create it, I've almost previously spoken to you, there's something like a stat of like 30% of women create their businesses while they're on mat leave. Is that, and do you see that trend because of when they're on mat leave, they're thinking about returning back to work and thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know how I'm going to be able to fit this into, my 9 till 5 typical, I put in inverted commas, job?
So yes, it is. 1 in 3 actually launch their business whilst on mat leave. 1 in 9 actually launch their business whilst pregnant, and I'm in that group. So and I'd love Lucy to kind of explore a bit about that life stage and what that kind of presents to you. I think we kind of have this moment when we become a mother, we view the world a bit differently, right? We look at risk differently. We look at safety differently. We look at where we spend our time very, very diligently, because we've got so much of it spare, right? So yeah. It's another lens that we have when we go through the significant life stage. But I also feel like it's a beautiful time, because I know a lot of women are trying to take control of what's important to them. At that time, they need more flexibility. They need to do things on their own term, and they need to find a way. And we think owning a business is actually a viable option for her to balance her career and her family and earn an income. So it's a very interesting life stage. It works because we have that flexibility. We can work from wherever we want, and perhaps on our own terms, and be there for school drop-offs and pickups and when our family needs us. So I think it's because of that. They want to work on something that they want to make an impact in. I think entrepreneurial and great problem solvers, they want to make change, in an area where they think there's a gap or there's a need. So that's an option too. But I think it's actually those sort of key reasons around, they want to earn income, they want to be there for their family, and they're still ambitious. They still want to actually make a difference.
I also think that having just created a child, you're at sort of peak creativity in many ways. I remember with my first baby, honestly, lying in a hospital bed, just being hit with all these ideas for some unknown reason, that like almost a hormonal thing where you're just full of your own invincibility. And fair enough, because what you've just done is pretty incredible. But I think there's something there psychologically that shifts in us that enables us to go, okay, so I've just done this. What else could I do? What else have I always wanted to do? And I don't think that that's a small thing. I think that's part of it too. And then, obviously, as Carrie put so beautifully, it's, needing to create, needing to have livelihood, but needing to support your family and wanting to be around for this beautiful creation that you've just made. Those 12-hour working days straight are no longer really appealing. So, yeah, I think it's all of those things.
Yeah, certainly a lot changes, and it's definitely underestimated that journey of motherhood, and even the concept around matrescence of the journey of becoming a mum. Just like, there's a lot of people know about adolescence, matrescence, about the journey of becoming a mum, and there's so much around it. People think, oh, it's a baby, and you're like, no, you've physically changed, you've emotionally changed, your priorities changed. There's so much that goes on, and often it's underestimated, definitely at times by society as well, about how big an impact that has been in so many ways, not only yourself, but also in your family dynamics, your relationships, and so many other components about that as well. And you talk about, we've got very little time as well, about being able to do the not only just have a business, but also have a family and juggle all the balls, as what I often say. What value do you place on outsourcing?
Pretty big significant value, and that can be financially outsourced, or it can be in kind outsourced, or it can be just be more sort of clear in what you're asking, like being more articulate in how you're asking for that help or that service. So I'm a big believer in women needing to ask for more help, to articulate it, and to be clear about it. It's why I'm so passionate about pitching as well, because ultimately, if you can help people understand what needs to be done and why it needs to be done, they're actually really likely to do it. They're actually really likely to help you. And another sort of area is outsourcing can be in so many different parts of your life. It doesn't have to be professionally. It can be personally. We're asking for help with childminding. We're asking for help with experts. We have around 60 experts that you can spend half an hour and work through just a business challenge. What's the next step that you need to take? So I definitely feel that outsourcing is something that you can do, and it doesn't necessarily need to have like that monetary value as well. So articulate the ask, make the ask, and do it in all parts of your life.
And it's amazing how many people, though, I don't know what it is when you become a mum, you think that you need to be able to do it all yourself. I don't know what it is. Sometimes you think, no, I need to know automatically how to breastfeed, or, how to run a business or something like that. But it's amazing the power of asking for help. I know that I was one that I used to be, oh no, I'm going to try and be proud and do it all. And I actually told this story to a friend of mine yesterday, that when I first met her at Mother's Group and going around the circle, she just previously lost her mum, and she'd accepted in help. And she said, it's amazing how much by asking for help, I've received that 10 times back in terms of offers. And 3.5 years later, that still actually resonates so strongly with me, because I've done that more since I've becoming a mum, of asking for help. And it's so true. Like, the more that you ask for help, the more you'll actually get back and receive. For me, it's something so simple, but it should actually be a strength to ask for help, and not a weakness, which is sometimes what we're made to believe.
100%. And I think once you've described that so beautifully, because I think once you do it once, that little gateway opens, whether it's psychological or whether it's, actual, change around your life. But you can see you're further along that path than you were, whatever the path is. And we've noticed over this, the most recent COVID lockdown period, that our expert program has increased in popularity, because I think people have, that nothing beats that one-on-one. If you've got a business problem, if you've got any kind of problem, but just having the support of that person to say, look, this is what's happening in my business, and maybe it's something that you might not be able to feel comfortable saying to anyone else in your life, and that helps you sort of move forward on the path that you're in, and you're in another space in your business and your life, and you can keep going. So it's that momentum that hopefully gives you that positive reinforcement that, yes, asking for help is positive, and it helps me be better, helps me move forward with what I need.
I'm really passionate about this question, so I've been jotting all these notes down. I think I'm reminded of the fact that half of the women that start businesses, and there's about 365,000 business owning mums in Australia,
That's huge.
We did a big research piece a few years ago, and we found that half of them actually start in an area where they previously don't have any prior experience. So it's impossible to have all the capabilities, skills, and talents that you need, even though you probably have a lot of them covered, or can find a way. So the beauty of the ask is actually in the doing, because asking should be the easy part. It's the doing that needs more attention. And I also think that there's no shame, there's no guilt ever in asking, because you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. And you could probably get there easier, like with learning through someone else's experience. And then lastly, if you're still not convinced, pay it forward. I know every single mum is always happy to help out. You're gonna pay that forward or pay that back in some way at some point, whether it's business advice, or it's break down the whole soccer classes and world for me. I've got 2 boys, so knowing that you don't put your hand up to be the coach. Tell me the things that I need to know, and then you pay that forward to some other woman.
That's one thing I've really noticed, difference between big corporates and compared to small business is the willingness to help and the co-opetition almost in small business, and willingness to help each other and to just lift each other up together. Where in big business, it's you've got to pretty much show your checkbook before you'll actually have a conversation with someone. The approach is so different, and that's why I love operating even just a small business fence, because it's as you said, everyone's willing to pay it forward to help each other, because you know what it's like to go through the struggles and to do it on your own. And whereas in big business, it can be quite draining, and it's very much just help yourself and don't help anyone else. I don't know if you've worked in corporate and you could then say something similar, or is that your experience as well, Carrie?
I feel like, it is. It can be, as a small business owner, it can be very challenging. Like some days are really long. It takes its, especially if you're venturing alone, we mentioned it can be isolating, it can be hard, and you have to show up all the time. Like show up with your best foot forward. From a corporate perspective, I think we've got some fantastic corporate partners, and I think that there is a shift. I think especially with, I'm sensing even with like COVID. You want to work with brands that have the same values as you. So if they have that sort of same sort of values and that mindset, and we really try to, we love learning from the digital startup world. We love learning from corporate world. We're trying to actually bring all those big business thinking and apply it to small business ownership with the lens of the female and mothers. So, like I said, we're trying to make business suit us. And no doubt, I'm sure there are some nuances with corporate life. I think, I've had feet in both camps, and they definitely both have their pros and cons. But we're definitely passionate about helping small business owner women upskill and network, and sort of unlock whatever value that they can through learning with bigger organizations as well. So we probably count them in our co-department, Mums for the company that you keep, and that might be your own village, or it might be your clients, but it's also and your partners, and it's other companies that actually want to support and work with you too.
Yeah, definitely. And so if you're a mum that might be pregnant, thinking about starting up their own business and going on that journey, what advice do you have, and where would they start? I know it's almost like how long's a piece of string, this question.
Well, okay. So if they're considering starting a business, I'm always about making sure that they've had a hard look at are they suitable to be a business owner? Like, they're stepping into a new world. So you have to be sort of realistic about what that entails, and be honest with yourself, because, I mentioned that show up every day. It is different. You're going to have to be very resourceful. You're going to have to love problem solving and working your way through, and sort of testing a bit of that resilience metal. Like, are you okay to deal with a few setbacks, or, do you think you can put things in place to navigate that journey? And you can, by having a network of like-minded women around you and experts, getting your support of, if you have a partner or a husband or friends or mentors, like having a support network around you. And then if you're looking at the business side of things, so that's a good look at yourself. But then if you're looking at the business side of things, my main tip there would be to really understand the problem that you're trying to solve for your intended customer, and to understand how big that problem is. Is it, and to the point where you're actually testing out, are people willing to pay to solve that problem? So getting a sense of that work. And then I'm sure I had one more. I like to think in threes. So
join Mums&Co.
Oh, yes, thanks, Lucy.
Community. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the approach. It's how you go about doing it. And I was probably going to say things like, you do have to, you might want, and I'm being probably a bit practical here, but you might actually want to start sort of having making sure that you've got it's going to take a little bit of time from maybe a financial point of view. So just making sure that you have got some buffers in place, that you've done you crunch the numbers, that you have an idea of how quickly you can get your first 100 customers, and sort of what sort of cash flow that's going to bring in. So working out those side of things. But yes, of course, join Mums&Co.
Yes.
For only $30, you join a movement, and then it's pay as you go. So we know that you can top up when you need it, or you can scale back when you need it as well, when your family needs you a little bit more. There's lots of flexibility to support you through that journey.
Fantastic. And is there anything you want to add, Lucy, because from your background with flying solo?
Yeah, look, I loved the points that Carrie made, particularly the one about being really clear on what the problem is that you're trying to solve. Because I think, it's one, now the stats escaped my head, but that first year of business is make or break for about 50% of business owners. So you really need to get those fundamental things right. And it's so easy when you're starting off to be so enthusiastic, because you need to be enthusiastic. you need that energy behind you. But there's also a lot of structure that needs to be in place if you're going to continue. And also get some really good financial advice. As Carrie mentioned, have a buffer, but also, there's plenty of free advice around now too, in terms of, sort of general basic accountancy. At Mums&Co, we've got lots of finance experts as well, but just to have that initial chat about, okay, what's realistic here? What am I trying to do? Because even if it is a part-time business or a side hustle or something that you're creating while you're transitioning from your full-time employment or your part-time employment, having a really realistic view of how much you can make is really important, and how long it's going to take to get there. So yeah, just being really clear, and also really, really look after your well-being, because it is a stress. It's not not all rainbows, and particularly if you're raising young children as well. It is another stress, it is another child. I've heard Carrie refer to having businesses that, is her third child. I mean, they grow in the same way. They have stages in the same way. And so you need to be kind to yourself, which is essentially why having a community, even if it's something you drop into once a month. I mean, we hold monthly member meetups for our members that are just such a lovely way, to have that sort of just micro touch point Doesn't matter that everybody in the room might be doing something totally different to you. The fact that you're in that community where someone understands what you're going through, I think that's invaluable.
Yeah, certainly having that part, and I think it's all parts of motherhood. Knowing that you're not alone is so powerful, because, you know, you get the imposter syndromes and the lack of confidence and things like that that can really creep on. And if you actually speak with someone else that's going through something similar, it actually doesn't seem such a big problem, because you're like, oh, I'm not alone. Someone else is going through it. And you actually feel better in yourself, because you're like, oh, it's nice to know that it's not just you that might be finding something, you know, a struggle or a challenge or something like that. And it can be so powerful.
That's right. I mean, that's why some of the, you know, the most wonderful books that you can read on about business are from people who admit to their failures or the things that have gone wrong, because you can kind of look at these successful people and go, what? That happened to you as well. It's a wonderful feeling, and it's so important. It's a human journey, owning a business. So we need to appreciate it and treat it the same way.
Yeah, it needs all the love and tenderness often that we give our kids, and sometimes even a little bit more. So, and so when we're talking about skills that can be used and useful for having your own business, what do you think are some of those 3 to 5 essential skills that you can bring with you? Or even, as you say, Carrie, you may not know them at the start when you start a business, but actually try and find them and, you know, find the people to help you develop those skills.
I would actually say that the confidence to pitch is definitely high on my list. And that when I say pitch, that's basically anything from, you know, meeting someone for the first time at a networking event or at the school pickup gate. It's just being able to answer with confidence what you do and why you do it and how you do it. It's the ability to actually say, oh, I'm intrigued to, you know, I want to hear more. Like, you've actually got my attention and it sounds fascinating. How can I get involved, or how can I help? So it's having that sort of pitch confidence, making sure that you can, you know, at one point you might be pitching for funding, or you might be going to the bank manager and saying, I need to fund my next stage of growth. So that pitch, from the elevated right up until, you know, bigger sort of asks, is really an important skill. I think problem solving and this is I think this is a very strong skill inherent to a lot of mothers. Like, we're able to work out what is needed at that particular time and how to actually address, remove that pain point for our child or for our family or for our, definitely for our children, maybe for ourselves. Sometimes we're not as clear on the path to prioritizing that, but it's definitely being able to problem solve. And then I'd probably put the last one in terms of, I don't know if it's like communication or the ability to sort of form a network around yourself. So, and that comes back to the, you're going to have to convince people to come on this journey with you. You're going to have to convince people to work with you, to be your supplier, to be your vendor, to be a collaborator, to, maybe it's to a journalist that needs to give you some publicity or some media awareness, or it might be to a new staff member. You want to bring someone on board into your business. So that sort of communication and the ability to create this network, this ecosystem around you, is another essential skill. So that's my 3.
Oh, fantastic. And Lucy, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in there to say that recently we've been hearing within our community that it's also prioritizing. So learning how to wake up each day and go, okay, what's the most important thing for me to do here today? What's going to take me further? And that becomes increasingly difficult as your business grows and things get complicated, and that you're putting on every single hat that there is, because that's part of it too. So learning how to prioritize what's the most important task today or in this hour to move me forward.
Yeah, and I think they're definitely skills that no matter if you work for someone or if you've got your own business, they're valuable in any way of, pitching, problem solving, communication, prioritizing. Naturally, as a mum, you're doing that in some shape or form in all parts of your life, and regardless if you've got your own business or if you're employed. So, great skills to actually do it. Now, to you both, how do you manage the juggle? One term that I often like to say is that we're a conductor, that we're pretty much like we've got our own little symphony of trying to make sure everything's all together, because I don't think that we're ever going to have balance of 50-50 of the connotations of that. I understand Mums&Co use the analogy of harmony, of definitely having it all in harmony, working together. So how do you both manage the juggle?
That's a beautiful synergy for us. We are definitely conducting and getting our orchestra to harmonise, all the instruments to harmonise together. And we refer to it as this triangle, if you will. So you've got ambition, which is your career and your business goals, where you want to make impact. Your livelihood, which is how you go about making that living. What are your family obligations? And your well-being. So it's around your personal health, your safety, your spiritual and physical and mental well-being. As a working woman, I think that sometimes that triangle looks pretty solid. It's a nice, healthy delta shape, sometimes a little bit skew-if on one side. It's and something kind of, at times has to give. So knowing that it's okay that one might be prioritized over another at some point, but it kind of has to balance out again after that. It kind of has to come back to harmony, in terms of the tuning of it all. So yeah, look, we definitely see it in that sense, and all parts are important to us. All parts give us a sense of identity. And Mums&Co is really sort of that national movement, that digital platform to power women at all stages of their business and motherhood, to achieve their ambitions and creating that sort of deeply caring and enabling space for them to live that best livelihood and well-being.
So powerful, so powerful. And Lucy, how do you manage the juggle?
Yes, well, I'm trying to always put my triangle back as well. I also think leaning in, to my community of colleagues, to my the community around me, my friends, my family. Again, I feel like for me, part of being able to do what I do is to know that I can't do it all myself. Having particular people for particular problems, whether it's just to talk to them or to ask them for help. And it's also making sure that I invest in myself constantly. And actually that's part of the reason we have an exciting podcast coming up ourselves. We're about to launch one at Mums&Co. And part of the reason that we decided to create that was part of the idea of we want to encourage women to invest in themselves, not just in their business, but in themselves, because without healthy us's, we don't have businesses anyway. But as you would know, Karina, with this podcast, that podcasts are the way that we can, as busy working women and mothers, still invest in ourselves and in our business by learning and listening to other women to discuss, how they go. So for me, that's really part of it as well. Just making sure that I'm finding ways that are easy to invest in my own well-being, because I think there's so much out there. There's so much you can do, but when your time is limited, you need to be really sensible and strategic about the things that you can do regularly. So yeah, I'd say well-being is high on my priority list.
As you said, it's about prioritizing what you can do in the most important parts of the day. And so what do you both do then for self-care? I'll start off with you, Lucy.
Yeah, I'm really into meditation. I started about 4 years ago, and I meditate absolutely every single day, mostly twice a day. So as soon as I wake up and as I'm going to sleep, in fact, falling asleep, the truth of it, that's my biggest one. I'm a regular exerciser, and one of my the things that I like to share about myself, about this part of my life, is that I also have a little bit of a thing for online tarot videos. So if you ever need some escapism, I go in for those as well. But yeah, my mental space is something that I really try. I always feel like if the head's clearer, then I've got more time because my productivity levels are higher.
So good. And Carrie, what do you do for self-care?
I am a late night rower. Something that I picked up with is it fervour during lockdown? So for the last probably year or so, I've been spending a lot of time on a rowing machine, and sometimes I might be doing it whilst watching a Netflix series. And other times I might be doing it, and I have to kind of credit my husband because he's a late night fitness person. He can do a whole session at 11 o'clock at night, and I know, and that's because he's, the day gets very busy, so we're trying to find the pockets of time that we can. So rowing, and then I think the other thing I do is I do definitely enjoy time decompressing at the moment with the boys. I have a 5 and a 7-year-old, and they're big soccer fans, and it's just fun. They're really, we've got a park just outside our house, the back of our house, so we're always sort of kicking balls around and being goalies and doing really cool victory poses after we score goals.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I'm back onto a park as well, and as soon as my son, my 3.5-year-old, sees like any ball comes out, he's like, right, let's go out in the back gate and try and kick the footy or kick the soccer ball or something like that. So can totally relate.
Yeah, and board games. We do lots of board games at the moment. So puzzles, board games, they're sweet at the moment. I'll hold on to it whilst I can.
Yeah, hold on to those. Now, is there anything more you ladies want to add to today's chat, just about being a working mum and having your own business?
I really just want to, applaud and acknowledge, the incredible hard work. It can be a bit unsung at times, being a small business owner and probably as a mother. So I just wanted to take a moment and say, you're doing a really good job. And absolutely, we welcome you to join our movement. I mentioned that it's only $30 to come along, and then it's a pay-as-you-go model, because we do know that when it's just starting out, or you just kind of want to set things up, then you might just want to pull on the resources and the networking that you need at that particular time. So come say hi. Lucy is always there to give you a very warm welcome, and I hope to meet you at some point.
Fantastic. Now, where can we go to join Mums&Co, and also how can we connect with you both?
So you'll find us on our website, which is mumsandco.com.au. We're also on LinkedIn, Instagram, and you can find both Carrie and I on LinkedIn as well. And if you go to the website to join, there is a join button. So if you just hit that, and you can follow the steps there. Otherwise, you can just contact me directly and I can give you a hand with it as well.
Well, thank you so much, ladies, for today's chat. I was really looking forward to it, and it's so many gems of gold throughout. So thank you so much for your time and everything you're doing to support working mothers in actually fulfilling their ambitions. I will also acknowledge that I am a Mums&Co member, so I'm really enjoying the platform. So thank you so much, ladies, for today's chat. I know that a lot of people are going to get so much value out of it, and definitely do go join. It'll be the best thing that you do all year. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Karina.
Thank you for listening to the Working Mama podcast. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or your favourite podcast catcher. I invite you also to join the Working Mama community on Facebook and join in the conversation with other like-minded working mums. Please also feel free to contact me on any of the Working Mama social channels. Remember, Mama is MUMMA, or website www.workingmama.com.au. I would appreciate you to share this podcast with friends and colleagues, especially those that are parents managing the juggle. And I would really appreciate if you had to take the time out to leave a review of the podcast. I'll be giving a shout out to select people that do so stay listening and you might be one of them. Thank you and see you next time. Have a great week.